Good afternoon, everyone. I have another video for you guys today. We're going to do another baking video. We're going to make scones today. Scone is an English pastry, and it's kind of a cross between a biscuit and a pastry, like a sweet pastry, but it's not that sweet. So that's what we're going to do today. Scones. We have our helper, John Paul. He's going to pick up the slack where I don't have my students with me. So, first thing we're going to do today, we're going to wash our hands, and then we're going to begin.
After you.
So our scones recipe is very simple. It has flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, a little vanilla, and butter. And then at the very end, we're going to add some milk, and we're going to do chocolate chip scones today. You could do plain scones. You can do cranberry scones. You could do raisin scones. You could do currants. But today we're going to do chocolate chips, one of my wife's favorites. So that's what we're doing today. So I'm going to start off with our flour.
Real butter. We're using real butter.
Real butter today.
Real butter.
So I'm going to measure 2 full cups of flour. Remember, we want to level it off, so we have a nice full cup. 1. And 2. And then because these are not supposed to be very sweet, we're going to measure in half a cup of sugar. And then we're going to do 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Level it off. Half a teaspoon of baking soda. So we wanted this to have a little bit of crispness to it, but not a whole heck of a lot. So do a little bit of baking soda. And then we're going to do a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Just to enhance the sweetness a little bit. And then John Paul is going to mix this up for us. Going to blend that completely. So that's our flour, sugar, nice and easy. Flour, sugar, baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Those are the dry ingredients. The next step, we're going to add in butter, fresh butter. You really don't want to use margarine or a butter substitute. You want to make sure you have real butter for this recipe. So it blends easier. I'm going to cut it up. Okay, that's good. We're going to add our butter in. And this is, I should say, the hardest step of the whole recipe is to blend this butter. We want to blend it and we want to crush it. And you really want to do this by hand, because if you do it by machine, it kind of takes the air out of the dough and then they won't rise up so well. So make sure my butter's all mixed up.
And I'm pretty sure it was like crush.
Yeah, we're going to crush
and make
it.
the butter into like batter.
Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to make a batter. So I want to mix up this butter until it's completely blended with our dry ingredients. And you don't want to see any chunks of butter or any pieces of butter. when we're done. We want to make sure it's all incorporated into the flour. It is a bit tedious, but it's a necessary step for this recipe. John Paul?
Yes.
Very carefully, very nicely. You're going to just keep crushing the butter, okay? I'm going to wash my hands, and then we're going to measure up some milk. Keep going. So our liquid ingredient for this recipe is going to be about 2/3 of a cup of milk. We might use it all, we might not. We're going to add it slowly. When we finally do add it, and we are going to mix in some vanilla, but it's easier if we just mix it in with our milk. About a teaspoon of vanilla. We'll just give that a quick whisk. Make sure the vanilla is blended in. How are we doing with that?
Good. Like, I make chunks with this, and so I just break them apart.
Good. Let me try now. Take a break. Wash your hands. And our featured guest today, John Paul, did a really nice job. I'm not feeling too much butter anymore.
Yeah, because sometimes when you crush it, it makes little little sugar.
Yeah, but we want to make sure that we
so I crush them up.
Yep,
and
that's what you want to do.
Sometimes inside.
Absolutely. That's what you want to do, huh?
Yeah.
So now our butter is just about blended in. And before I add our liquid, I'm going to add some chocolate chips. Now, like I said, you could do plain scones. And if you do plain scones, you would just add your milk, form your dough, and then you're good to go. But if you want to add craisins or raisins or currants or chocolate chips or anything like that, or a blend of things, you want to add it to the dry. So, just about done. I'm going to add about a cup of chocolate chips. And mix that with the dry.
Want me to?
I got it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Look. You don't want to crush them.
No. And then the next step, we're going to add our milk slowly and start to form our dough. So that's John Paul. You're going to add a little bit of milk, and when they tell you to stop, stop, okay? So go ahead. Stop. So I'm going to mix that milk in slowly. A little bit more. Stop. I'm going to blend in that milk. And the dough is starting to form. It's a little bit crumbly, a little bit more milk. Go, go. Okay. You can see our dough. It's nice and wet now. Still just a tiny, tiny bit dry. Well, maybe not. Let's see.
Can I try?
No.
Okay.
It's okay. My hands are already doughy, so. Just a tiny drop more milk. Go ahead, just a drop.
all of it?
No. Good. Perfect. Just enough to get our dough to form. Good. It's a tiny, tiny bit wet, but that's okay. Okay, put that in the sink. Now I'm going to wash my hands again. Real quick. And then, because it is a tiny bit wet, we don't want it to stick to our board when we roll it out. Do a little bit of flour on our board.
It smells like cookie dough.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to roll our dough in a little bit of flour. And then some of you guys that have had me for Culinary 2 have done this dough, and it's always a favorite. My Culinary 1 kids haven't done it yet this year, so I thought I would do it for you. Kind of pat it down into a disc. Nice. It's not real sticky. We want it about an inch, inch and a quarter thick. So now we're going to cut our dough. We're going to cut it into 8 pieces. So cut it in half. Cut each half in half. And we're going to cut them into 8s. That's our scone dough. I have a baking sheet. I'm going to place them on the sheet. We want to place them a little bit
separate.
Exactly, a little bit separated. Because they are going to grow. And we don't want them to stick together. So there we go. We have our 8 scones. And I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees. I'm going to slide these in the top rack. And we're going to bake them for exactly 19 minutes on 400 degrees. And when they come out, they'll be nice and golden. We could melt on a little bit of butter. We could do a little bit of strawberry jam or orange marmalade, or a little bit of honey if you like, and then they'll be perfect. See you guys in about 19 minutes.